Yes, you need an airlock. They're just $2. Actually, with inflation now, they're probably more like $3, and I know some people have told me they're as high as $12 to $15. But this is an airlock. And the way it works is you fill it with some sanitizer fluid, you put this in the lid of your fermenter, and the gas bubbles can push up this side, down this side, and back up and out. But while that's happening, nothing can get in. And because you use sanitizer fluid or a cheap whiskey or scotch that you don't like Scoresby, then nothing can get in either. And that's important. A lot of people just use plain water. You can do that if you really want to. I don't recommend it because bugs can actually live in water for quite some time. But sanitizer fluid and alcohol tend to do the trick. So, and I mean real bugs, fruit flies. We're in Florida. We get fruit flies in our airlocks all the time, and that means it did its job. When you see that, clean it out, replace it, put it back in. But why do you need an airlock in the first place? Well, okay. You can just do an open fermentation if you really want to. What that means is, say you have a bucket or a large vat or whatever you happen to be fermenting in, you can just leave it open. And people do that all the time. However, we have cats. And like I said, we're in Florida and there's fruit flies. I really don't want any of those in my brew. Will they really harm it? It's debatable in the beginning, but I'd still rather not take that chance. You could cover it with a cloth and that would be perfectly acceptable too, except, like I said, we have cats and they're curious. And one of our cats will jump on that cloth and fall into our brew. I just know they will do that. So we don't do that. If you have anything else in your house, like dogs, animals of any kind, children, you probably don't want to do an open fermentation unless you know you can secure that brew somewhere else. Enter the airlock. We can keep our airlocked stuff laying around and they don't really mess with it at all. I mean, they probably don't like the smells coming out of it because essentially it's the process of rotting or fermentation. So wild animals won't really appreciate that smell very much. Other reasons to use an airlock though. Many people, I've heard of this happening and I really want to dissuade anyone from ever doing this. They will put a cap and turn the cap onto their fermenter and then once a day release that. Well, if you forget, you just made a bomb. And I'm not even exaggerating, you made a bomb. And if you leave the lid loose, okay, I'll be honest. It's sort of, almost, kind of okay. It sort of, almost, kind of does the job, but it's not as safe as this. It's not as much insurance as this, okay? So it's sort of, almost, kind of, maybe is all right to do, but an airlock is $2, $3, $4, whatever it is. You can reuse it. Dozens, hundreds of times. We have like 20 of these things laying around. We just grab one whenever we need it. It's not a big deal, but this can save you some frustration. This can save you from an infection. And I mean, you know, it's not really that big of a deal to put an airlock on there, is it? I've even heard of people making them out of pill bottles and, you know, all kinds of DIY products. If you absolutely cannot find airlocks in where you are, well, that might tell you something about the legality of brewing where you live, but if you absolutely must do it anyway, you can do what's called a blow-off tube, okay? It's essentially an airlock. It is just, you take the stopper, you put that in, you put some silicone tubing, and run that out to a mason jar filled with sanitizer fluid. It works the exact same way as an airlock. It does a really great job, and it keeps your brew safe. So, do you need an airlock? Heck yeah, you need an airlock. By the way, they come in different styles too. This is an S-type. There's also the 3-piece. There's glass fancy ones and all sorts of stuff. They all do essentially the same job, so they're all good. I just actually aesthetically prefer the S-type. And that is all I have to say on airlocks. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.